I'm Sam Rose, and you're tuning in to Commerce is Chaos, the podcast for consumer brand founders who know that building a business is messier than the highlight reel shows. Your supplier just missed their deadline, your top product is out of stock, and your competitor somehow launched the same thing at half the price. Sound familiar? Every week, we dive into the real problems that keep founders up at night, from inventory disasters to supply chain nightmares, because surviving the chaos is what separates brands that fail from brands that scale. Caryn, tell me about trimester planning.
I've been at Little Spoon for 7 years. So we've been through many different planning cycles and attempts at different planning. And obviously the stakes have changed as we've gone from one category to 11 and like two of us in a room to over 100. So we went through we had OKRs, we had biannual planning. We then were like, that's not frequent enough. We moved to quarterly planning. And then it was just like, when are we not planning for the next quarter? Like, when do we actually get to do the work and take the time to do it? For us, as a business, quarters just were not working. So we moved to trimesters. So we work on 4-month cycles. It's nothing to do with the human gestation period. It just so happens to be that we're using trimesters, but it's honestly been great because typically our planning cycles, it takes a month to come up with the grand plans of how you're going to really, spend the time and opportunity size. And that's good work. And it's helpful because it helps us actually prioritize where we should be focusing. But if you're doing that in a quarter, then you're planning for 3 or 4 weeks. You have 3 or 4 weeks to quote unquote get it done. And then you're in the 3rd month of the quarter and everybody's like, oh, we should get ahead for next quarter's planning. So this has allowed for a little bit more breathing room and has allowed the team to actually sink their teeth into projects and priorities a bit more. And so that's our flow. But now April is the last month of T1. So we did kick off T2 planning earlier this week, and we will, over the next 2 weeks, the teams will meet and start to, put down suggestions of what T2 is going to be all about. So yeah, that's true.
I love this look for you. I think it's a really clever framing. I think that, I find myself overwhelmed by quarterly planning.
Yeah.
I'm I finish planning and then I
No,
have
it's relentless and it feels relentless.
2 weeks
And
to do
it's
something.
we are in these nimble dynamics because we tend to be people who don't like bureaucratic layered processes. And then you realize there's some merit to said processes, but you still have that entrepreneurial spirit. And so many of the people who work at Little Spoon, that's the same mindset. It's why they're at Little Spoon. And so it just became, quarterly planning just became so relentless and just felt like, let's stop talking about the work we're going to do and talking about the meeting. Let's just get into it. So, for what it's worth, the trimesters work hard at Little Spoon. Yeah.
The trimesters work hard. I love that. And I just so appreciate the willingness to disrupt a norm in service of what works for you. It's the circadian rhythm of a bit. If you're an early riser, be an early riser. If you gotta, you want to go to bed late, but
Yeah.
you have to find the balance that works for you as a human being, and then in the group dynamic, in the team dynamic, because otherwise you're just going to be racing tired all the time.
I know. I mean, I think the last decade has been enlightening and humbling in terms of really disrupting every construct that we've all thought were rule of law and way one must be in life. And certainly I think we're in a really kind of a new age of Wild West. And for me, what it signals and what it reminds me of, it's there's the very kind of powerful Steve Jobs sentiment, which is one day you realize that the world was made up by people no smarter than you, and you can change it.
Yeah.
And in the last decade, I feel that has become more of a mass realization. And we are seeing so much demonstration of quote unquote rules being broken culturally, societally. So yeah, screw the rules, make up your own. Everybody, has found some way of doing that in the last, perhaps that's just what life has always looked like. And our exposure to all of it is just so much higher now. But these rules they're just someone who came around like you or me and was like, that's a rule,
Right?
and, and
I'm
that's all it is.
really pulling out the anarchist in me. It really works. I
It's
feel like
like,
you may,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I spent, so I started my entrepreneurial career very young and I'm sort
Mhm.
of like, in the wild almost. And I had really delightful business mentors, but at startups, like very early on, they
Yeah.
were kind of mavericks making the rules up too. And after I started my first business, like I felt like I didn't have the right training wheels almost. I'm like, I'm just kind of making this stuff up. Like, am I doing it right? And there's so many parts of that were fine. I'm great at product development. I'm good at supply chain. So easy to talk to. It was comfortable for me to talk to people and just learn. Then there were other parts of it that were really kind of scary. Like, am I doing HR right?
Yeah, totally.
Like, am I
Totally.
screwing this up? Like livelihoods at stake. And
Right. Right.
fast forward, 15 years, and I've acquired some businesses and acquired teams, and I'm like, I get inside sometimes and I'm like, everyone just made this up too.
It's
Like, it's not better just
I
because it's
know.
older.
I know. And it's like so funny because we label all of that like it's imposter syndrome and it's like we all suffer from that. I think maybe that's like part of what makes us really like sociable creatures and like it's part of what makes humans like work so well together when we do choose to work well together. It's like this assumption that someone maybe knows how to do it better than you or like that you're somehow like missing some chip. And then especially in startup life, like you really do learn it. And like one of the things that's happened over the last couple of years in my career, and I feel like more broadly, is there is like Slack has unlocked so much ability for us as like marketing leaders or whatever department or whatever like specialty you have. Like you find like-minded people across other businesses. And I have found that so reassuring. I'm in a couple of these Slack groups with other marketing leaders, and they're all asking the same questions. They're all wondering how to do one thing or another. Like we've been able to kind of show up for each other in ways that, otherwise you're sitting alone and you're wondering like, shoot, like, am I like, is this a deficit of mine? Like, am I not aware of something that other people know how to do? And especially in the marketing landscape, it's changing so rapidly. It's to the point that these platform representatives, they don't know how their platforms work. They're finding out about betas and opportunities the same time as you. And so it is this really interesting kind of new world of like, there is no expert. And so what does it require and how do you win,
Man, what actually flows right into the very first question that I had written down that I wanted to ask you, which is about the chief brand officer role and this kind of like, position that you basically have designed from scratch, like setting aside industry conventions and
Yeah.
letting the business tell you guys what that function should be and what needed it. So
Yeah, totally.
walk us through your framework and your thought process there.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, is this like Wi-Fi is okay?
Wi-Fi is great.
Okay, cool. Because it was getting a little blurry and I just couldn't tell.
I think it did for me for a second too, but I think
I don't know if it's me. It could be. Yeah. Okay. So it's so interesting because when I first talked to our CEO, Ben, so Little Spoon, our co-founders, Angela and Ben, are the CEO and chief product officer, working with them incredibly closely over the last 7 years, have an amazing relationship with them, and also have been growing with one another and holding one another accountable in all these different ways through the years. And it's just been like an amazing journey for all of us and amazing to see what they've built and how it's turned into what it is today. They brought me on initially because they had this rapid word of mouth business that like they found a major white space in the baby food category. They realized that this was a really fundamentally different generation of parents, way more time scarce, really attuned to the power between, the connection between food and health. And then like they go to the shelf desperate for convenient options, and sitting there are shelf stable products that are nutritionally sterile that have been there for, up to 2 years. Like the food is oftentimes older than the baby eating it. And this,
Yeah, I never thought about that.
yeah,
That's
and like
hard.
they had that line at like the top of each, campaign because it is so striking. It's like, oh my God, that makes no sense. And, they initially brought me on as the second employee at the company. They had an ops person and they were working every job with their co-founders, and they really felt like, hey, we need to establish, where are we going? What is the vision? They had always imagined continuing to grow with the child. How do we build the cultural power of this brand? How do we show up for this parent in a highly differentiated way? And because the word of mouth had been so strong, it was like we had this opportunity to really lay the brand foundation and do deep brand positioning work to then set the marketing strategy and enable the marketing strategy to flow from it. Being a brand-led marketer, brand-led thinker, like that is it's so easy for many marketers or anybody to sort of walk through the door of Little Spoon and come from different philosophies, different cultures, work cultures, where marketing might be perceived as really the growth side of the business only, or marketing might be perceived as like a function that's more in execution mode, or you might not have a really strong brand identity and you might just not know what the power of a good brand foundation really looks like for a business. And so, to me, my job is not just to oversee our marketing strategy and deliver business results and brand experiences through marketing. It's to live and breathe the brand position and the reason that Little Spoon exists in the first place through every single touch point with Little Spoon. And so it's like to me, it felt like when we sat down to kind of talk about the role and what the title should look like, and it was before anybody really started to like build that title. Like I see it a lot more now, but I felt like marketing was just one facet of the work that I was doing, and also really like what felt right for the Little Spoon culture, which is really, we really truly exist for this consumer. We really truly exist to build around the core customer. And we do that through every single touch point and every single surface. And to just focus that as marketing function felt like it wasn't representative of what we were trying to build. So the job in many ways is exactly the same. I think like CMOs come from so many different backgrounds for Little Spoon. And I mean, my philosophy as a marketing leader, like I think being brand led is the ticket, and it's worked really hard for us.
You've obviously cleared space for other people to believe that too. So it's
Yeah.
great to see it just like it's catching on, And I think
It's
that
so
integrated.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting to see it pop up in so many places now. Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
I mean, I do think perhaps this pendulum swing is kind of coming back. Like, I think everything goes to extremes and then kind of comes back the other direction. And I think that we were really well convinced from a marketing standpoint that like creative wasn't the priority for a little while. And that was very connected in people's mind. Like, it's not about brand, it's about growth. And this idea of these parts of marketing departments being siloed out and just being like individual functions that could just work and crush it on their own, like it was actually like bought and sold for a good couple of years in the industry. And I think, Meta played a big role in that at the time, Facebook, right? Like it was, you can just throw anything up there, like throw a bowl of staples on there and they're going to buy your product, doesn't matter, And that was culturally really ripe and people were responding to that and the market responds to that. And so you get swayed, you get marketed to in a way.
Yeah.
I think the last couple of years, all of a sudden, you walk into a meeting with Meta and creative is the new targeting. It's brand new. No one had ever heard of it before. So that is, it's helpful because as someone, like for me, as I've gone through my career, like now I have this pattern recognition of like, oh, I can see where people are getting kind of the wool pulled over their eyes and kind of getting sold this concept of how complicated marketing might be. It's really quite simple, right? It's like it boils down to like, I need to influence your behavior. I got to tell you about why I'm worth it. And like, that is kind of the gig no matter what. And so I think like now it's swayed back to, hey, creative matters, heart matters, soul matters more than ever before. That's just fundamental Mad Men work.
Yeah.
It's just like back in the zeitgeist. So, I'm not complaining about that because it's the way that I want to think. And when I think about like the younger generation of marketers that are kind of entering the workforce and growing today, like that's what I would hope that they would learn. And I think it is the more, to me, it is the basic job of having an effect on someone and influencing someone and trying to convince them why you matter. So I think it's just picking up. I think people are like, creative is the new targeting. Let's go brand,
Let's go brand. Let's go brand.
Let's go.
There's a great example of this from Little Spoon that we can use. Your Lunchers campaign, which, speaking of zeitgeist, was so
Oh my
of the
God, it was
moment.
so fun. I
Talk us
know.
through. Okay, so I can drop some numbers on it, but you have these amazing 90s celebrities, which thank you.
So fun.
And then a bunch of influencers, like hundreds of influencers. You had extraordinary ROI in the
Yes.
first 24 hours. And like on launch day, which we could call lunch day, um, you've got like these huge businesses basically springing up from 0 to 1. Cards on the table. Your tech stack is held together with duct tape and prayers. If you're a brand founder or COO juggling Shopify, your 3PL portal, 3 different inventory trackers, and yes, that one crucial Google Sheet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Orders get lost, inventory counts are fiction, and your seamless integrations break every other Tuesday. Endless Commerce changes the game. One platform for everything. DTC, wholesale, marketplaces, the works. AI-powered forecasting, real-time inventory visibility, and integrations that actually integrate. Teams like Great Jones, Food 52, and Pattern Brands already made the switch. Ready to ditch the chaos? Visit endlesscommerce.com, mention Commerce is Chaos when you reach out, and get 3 months free. Because your ops stack should be your competitive advantage, not your biggest headache.
Yeah.
Or 10,000 or whatever. Tell us about that moment. Tell us how you orchestrated it. Tell us what worked, and also like how you came up with this, and maybe some insights in that moment in the zeitgeist.
Totally.
This is the moment.
It was so much fun. We really honestly had the best time. We also threw like the best company party we ever had because everybody had to come 90s themed, and our head of performance came as Princess Diana. I mean, it was spectacular. Yeah, I mean, Little Spoon, what was a massive differentiating like value from the very beginning that we have just doubled and tripled and continue to focus on. And it comes through in even the most recent work we just launched, which is our formula product, which I can tell you a little bit about. The biggest aha for me was really realizing not just how much the products on the shelf required disruption, but how much the way we were talking to the parent really required disruption. The aha was so many brands in this category are marketing to this person as if the only thing that they have in their lives is being a parent. And in fact, this is an incredibly multifaceted person that is leaning into parenting alongside their career, alongside their own health and wellness journey, alongside their hobbies, alongside the multitude of responsibilities that they have. And if we could market to that person as a well-rounded, multifaceted person and really speak to the parent as like a true individual and not just kind of servicing their child in the purchase of this product, we could really win and we could really stand out, especially as a digitally native brand. And so that is the underpinning of the like partnership strategy, the way that we approach campaigns. We are always focused on how can we delight and really help the parent feel seen in the most like sticky and meaningful way. So when we first started developing these products, like we were having so much fun on the nostalgia train, just like the idea that we could like build our own lunches and like have that product, have pronounceable ingredients. All of us grew up with like witch finger bugles on our fingertips and Veggie Loops offered these like rings that we could, have fun with. And so we were having so much fun. And it was this like light bulb moment that that's part of the joy of being a parent is you get to really re-experience being a child again. And you get to have that childhood wonder kind of reemerge in your life and feel all of those like really warm, fuzzy, pure feelings from your own youth. And so we knew that that was just like such an opportunity. It was like, how could we pass the torch of like how playing with your food can be done in this like modern time? And that is what brought like all of the nostalgia, none of the junk. And that's what kind of yielded that campaign. So we did a really classic 90s commercial. We had like a big blow up couch. We, had a really funny VO, like these kids rejoice, like we're back, and it was a very like Zoom style set for those who remember Zoom.
Yeah.
But it was really like, also playing into the fact that like the parent was going to want to steal the dipsters and like have their, kind of like their updated version of that experience. They were going to want to actually, engage with the product too, because like you can't help but kind of tap into that childhood spirit. So it came with a bunch of really fun, nostalgic swag. We actually collaborated with Pogs. I don't know if you remember Pogs, but that was like a massive collectible. It was their first collaboration in 20 years.
Was it really?
It was so much fun. And we collaborated with Pogs. We collaborated with a bunch of 90s celebrities. We sent out all these boxes that had like magic 8-ball keychains and slap bracelets and just a super, super sticky experience and like really tapped into this insight that you delight in passing the torch to your child and like remembering all of these really pure, fun memories from your own childhood and the connection that food has to fun. It really exists for parents today and it can exist in a convenient way. And that's what Little Spoon can do. So that was it still is such a high performing, like whenever we are focused on kind of building and running that part of the puzzle for our D2C business, it's super sticky.
Yeah. The other thing that I love about this is that, and when you said pass the torch, made me think like, there's so much of brand marketing in the past decade that has just been around like storytelling about the product, right? Like, which is fine. It's great. Story. That's what makes a product go. Like, that's how we're going to get people's attention. And it's very product centric. What I love about you all and that campaign in particular is that it allowed us to participate in the story, right? Like that story of Lunchers became my story of the Bugle and like playing with my food and even having like, lunch in that format, shall we say, like in the first place. So much nostalgia. And it was like, I got to do that with my kids and play with them again. And it became my story with them. And that's when that the brand has really taken hold is when people are storytelling for you. And
totally. No, it was such a powerful launch for us. It was also, we were really reading the signs. Like we were seeing a ton of nostalgic creative out in the world. We were on the more front end of that wave, but that became like a tidal wave. And there was a ton happening in that sort of 90s nostalgia space. And for good reason, like it really is such now we're in the kind of the JFK Jr. version of it. So we're at a different sophistication level of 90s obsession. We're still in it, doing it today. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's it's so true. That's going to be like a nouveau riche kind of a slightly standoffish, elevated like
I know. Everybody's got a headband on. It's like we're in I know. Yeah. I kind of love it. I do. And I do think I think there's a reason, obviously, I think the core demo that is loud on these social platforms, at least in the bubbles that we are in, they even if they didn't grow up in the 90s, they feel more connected to that decade. And it does historically just represent the last decade before technology really became commonplace in our lives. And I do think there's this always on mourning happening within social media, which is, I wish I wasn't here in a way. Like, I wish I was off this platform just chilling with, JFK Jr. in the park and like,
Yeah.
and not knowing where my friend is. Like, I want that. I wish that I didn't have 40 of my friends on Find My Friends. There's like this interesting dichotomy that I think exists today, which is like we miss the before times at the same time that we're so reliant on the now and the way that like it's so permissive and so like omnipresent in our lives. So it's interesting. The 90s have like more to it than just the millennial attachment. There's like real like power in that decade for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. It's more than just teal and purple.
Yeah. Although that is such an iconic part.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Man, I remember my favorite color at some moment in that time zone was like my favorite colors were teal and purple for sure.
I
And
mean, totally.
you had a lot. I mean, and there's like they're fun and they're speckles everywhere and
Yep.
lightning bolts and zigzags and
Yep.
colored blocking and all of this stuff. And I've since my favorite color is now red. I've graduated, but like hot red, like neon.
Yeah, I love that color. What is there's a nail color that all of the women on my team are constantly talking about getting. That's like that hot red nail color. It's Cajun shrimp.
Yeah, Cajun shrimp.
That's the name of the polish. Somebody messaged on Slack this week, like, it feels springy. Can I get Cajun shrimp nail polish yet? And everyone's like, get it.
We need Cajun shrimp bugles to just
Yeah, I know.
like
I know.
we can really close this loop.
We could figure it out somehow. Yeah.
And I've got a 9-year-old little girl who's a huge fan and has grown up on your products.
It's amazing.
And her favorite colors are teal and purple. And I'm like, wow, it's either
Yeah.
it's either 9-year-old little girls or everything old is new again
I
and
know.
everything cool is cool again. And like we're back.
No, because you know what else is so hot? It's like dolphins. Dolphins are hot right now. Dolphins and unicorns and like it's giving Lisa Frank,
Giving Lisa Frank. Yeah.
Yes. And it's like, are you going to want to be a marine biologist? Like, is this really
The
full circle?
manatees.
I know. Yes, it's so interesting. And like we're having fun in that world, because
Yeah.
again, I think like for us, it's like naturally like there's something really delightful and exciting about seeing these like motifs back in the zeitgeist, but it's like fascinating. You remember that like shrink shirt that was like the little, yeah, that shrinks shirt, like it's like popping around Soho, and people
Yeah.
are just walking around in their shrink shirts. And I'm like, man, I should have kept my whole, wardrobe of my mini shirts.
You could be a millionaire. You wouldn't even have to work
I
anymore. You
know.
could just be reselling.
I know. They would be like the original 90s shrink shirts. Yeah. Could have been.
I mean,
But
the other thing I love about this angle is that it is capturing the hearts and minds of the masses of all of us. It doesn't have to be that expensive. It just has to be
yeah.
inspired, right? Like
Yeah.
I know that was a big campaign, but I feel like one of the things that you all do so well is kind of being like, I don't know, either there's a counterculturalness in being on the front end of where
Mhm.
culture and trends are being established. And if you find the right partnerships and the right brand partnerships in that, then the two forces combined can really punch above the weight of,
Yes.
a better capitalized, more established legacy competitor who's by nature of the beast, back to our
Totally.
beginning of the conversation, inherently moves more slowly because that's just the nature of big machines and big ships.
Totally. It's a big part of our playbook. So, like in the product collaboration universe itself, Graza, I slid into Graza's DMs. That's how that partnership started. I just DM'd them and I was like, what's up? And they were like, what's up? But it just so happened that the founder, Andrew, had just welcomed a baby and his baby was around 5 months old. And he was like, wow, I'm, in this stage right now. I'm literally adding olive oil into my baby's food. And at the time they were quite small, but I had looked at them and I was like, gosh, they're going to be such a darling brand. And I'm super interested in them. These product developments for us, they go so much more quickly than these big entities. But still, you're talking about like a 6 to 8 month like lead time from idea to actually having like a product in market. And so, really that was the mindset, was like, we could really, there's social currency there for us. There's cultural relevance currency there for us. There have been times where we have partnered with larger brands, and we are doing that for similar but kind of different reasons. With Graza, we also did a collaboration with Saws, which is another darling CPG brand. It really is about, these are brands that are, culturally relevant and really current and exciting to the parent. And we want to tap into their foodie identity and really have them delight in sharing that, foodie fun with their own kid. So those have been really powerful collaboration strategies that we've employed. And we've also been strategic around, like, we did a collaboration with Siete last year. And, that was knowing that we were entering retail for the first time. And we really, wanted to collaborate with a brand that shared in like a clean ingredient mindset and was really beloved on the shelf. But you're not seeing Little Spoon collaborate with like Paw Patrol. You're seeing Little Spoon really make a conscious choice to partner with brands that are loved by the parent. And that has translated into characters. Like, we did a collaboration with Barney, but that was another collaboration that we made a conscious choice on because of the nostalgia factor and because it was so meaningful to the parent as much as it could be really exciting and enticing for the kid. So we're really putting the parent first in the way that we think about our approach to partnership, collaboration. And this is a very discerning customer. And this is also a customer who's been messed around with. And so we are really choiceful around like, who is the tastemaker that makes sense for us, or the celebrity that makes sense for us. Like, they are not going to clamor for a brand that has a spokesperson that doesn't feel like a genuine fit. And so really honoring like where this parent's back is with the category at large, and really like taking that feedback seriously on the category and applying it to our marketing strategy has been a big piece of the puzzle too.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you labeled it, but I want to double down using the partnerships framework of other brands that your customer is buying for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than other brands that they're buying for, in your case, like their children, is such a good hack. Like, so smart. We might have to like redact this part of the podcast just so people can name it.
No, it's honestly, I think like it's really is a powerful lever. And don't underestimate sliding into someone's DMs. It has done wonders for us. You gotta shoot your shot, and you would be surprised. I mean, even like on my own LinkedIn, like our first intern slid into our DMs and wrote a compelling message. You gotta shoot your shot, and most people are willing to reply, and we've had a lot of partnerships come to life that way. Rachel Antonoff, we did a baby puff with her. I was kind of racking my brain, like, how could we do something fun entering the puff space? And I was like, man, baby puffs, baby puffers, maybe.
Yeah.
And at the time, her pasta print was huge, like blow up, like cult following, always sold out. And we pitched them. They had never done anything kid related before. And we were like, man, let's do a pasta puffer with hidden veggies on the inside, like reversible little kids jacket. And they were game to pull it off. And it ended up being a ton of fun, and products sold out and ended up getting written up in many places. And I am in Brooklyn Heights, so I have the like absolute joy of seeing that puffer jacket pop around from time to time. There's actually someone in my building whose daughter is still wearing that puffer jacket. It's the best.
That's so cute. I mean, I think that's the other, there's merch, and then there's like, I don't know, cultural expression through like these product extensions. And I think if you can create a strong enough brand voice that people don't just want to like wear your brand, but they want to like inhabit, and, like represent, and they're proud to be a part of it. Like that's putting the parent into the story. That's putting the customer into the story.
Totally. Yeah, totally. And I think I think there are so many small brands out there right now, like that are kind of like my biggest source of inspiration. Cause again, I think like maybe they are just a reflection of the time in which they are born, in the sense that like there are no there's no like rule book the way that there used to be in terms of like these media opportunities, and you really can kind of catch fire in this different way. And I think there's been such an insurgence of creativity from these smaller brand owners that are really coming at their launches in a social first way, and like that is where culture is happening. And so just the creativity there and partnership strategy or behind the scenes of the building of the business and what that really looks like. It's been super interesting and inspiring to see.
Yeah, I think so as a product designer by
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
trade,
got to interview you. I want to know a lot
I
about
don't
you.
really know who I am anymore,
I
but
mean, what an
I
incredible
remember.
history of like just so much like exposure to so many things. It's
Yeah,
incredible,
yeah.
like so much invention and yeah, very cool.
It's been interesting to kind of pull together all of these different, ultimately, I just like to learn things, and so I'm like a sponge for like, "Oh, that seems like a hard thing to manufacture, like, let me figure that out," or "That seems like
Mhm.
that's a stupid way to do something, like, let me."
Yeah.
But I love something I remember from, like, my deep product dev days is marrying 2, like, either materials or product identities that are, in a shocking way. So it'd be like, if I took my water bottle and I decided I was gonna make it out of grass or
Mm,
something, and that captures people's attention, and they know water bottles and they know grass. I
mhm.
screen. This is a terrible example. Um, but, putting those things together becomes, like, surprising and in a familiar, but, like,
Yeah.
very interesting way, and I really love that about your overall brand strategy and overall marketing strategies, like, you're
Yeah.
taking things that are familiar, but you're putting, like, this twist on them that's, like, just delightful enough that everyone almost wants to, like, appropriate that for themselves, when you can capture the, "Oh my gosh, I wish I'd thought of that." That's
Yeah.
what you guys have, you know? I feel
Yeah.
like
Thank you.
that's a big thing that's like a tool that people like you and I could help people to, like, think about, or a framework that we can give them to say, like, if you can kinda put 2 things together in, like, an exciting but slightly unfamiliar way, people are
Mhm.
gonna wish that they'd done
Yeah.
that.
It's like, I think that it is about knowing thyself, like if you really know who you are and you love who you are and you can like really nerd out with yourself, then like the weird and wonderful can happen. And I think that, that's the difference between like a really well defined brand and a brand that's perhaps just trying to kind of like catch the wave and see if they can pull something off. I think that that's why ultimately I believe that brand is the unlock for everything. Like, if you don't know why you're here, why you matter, what your worth is, what your value system is, who you hang out with, and what feels like the right fit for you, it's hard to build partnership programs. It's hard to build a really robust and scalable marketing strategy. Like, where are you supposed to go? What are you going to say? How are you going to convince people that you matter? You don't even know why you do. So that's like not a very compelling first date, like what are you offering me, And so I think like that's kind of what it boils down to is like the person you want to marry is like they know themselves and they show up exactly as who they are, and you love that person and you love the way they like show up in the world and all the weird and wonderful things they do. So, comes back to brand to me always, and I think we honor who we are in a major way, and that can take forms that are, like, serious, and there's a lot of topics in our category that is really serious, and there are a lot of issues in our category that are really serious, but it's also, like, these kids are incredible, and they tap into just the playful, fun, and weird side of who we are too. And also food. Food is love and nourishment. And so there's just so much texture and there's so much to pull from and play with as a marketer and a storyteller.
I think one underlying probably rule set that you have running is like, who are you not?
Yeah.
How do you guys
Totally.
know what to say no to? I just, came up with the stupidest example of all time. Like how to like abstract 2 things together in a way that's exciting
Yeah.
and that you might say yes to. But how do you know when the water bottle made out of grass is actually really dumb? And like we're not gonna do
Yeah.
that.
No, it's true. I mean, for sure. There's a lot of, I mean, definitely there's a lot of inbounds and a lot of opportunities that show up for us that don't feel right for us. I think that it is about like rooting in the core value system. And so one thing about us is like we're always going to keep it real. And that is a really fundamental truth of who we are. And so that's a really quick barometer for us, whether it's an influencer or an individual or a big brand or a retailer or a potential investor, or whatever it might look like. It's a scannable like gut check of like, how are they living and breathing in the world? Are they really keeping it real? Are they really, kind of representing what we view as like the most appropriate way to show up today, like the current energy that comes from real, earnest, truthful identity. And so that is a really quick gut check that often filters out a lot of opportunity. And then I think the next one for us is always like, how does this ease or empower the parent? And empowerment could be delight and just make them feel seen. But empowerment could also be like, oh, this is actually like offers a utility or a functional benefit to them. And so we'll go, kind of right to that mission of like, does this make their lives easier and empower them, and how? And that's another gut check that will filter more out. And yeah, I mean, I think it's about core identity. Like it kind of boils down to like, what's your value system? And does this feel like it honors that or not? And there's so much like within that is dumb and dopey. And it's like, it's honoring the value system because it's real and it's funny and like it brings ease through laughter. It brings ease through levity. Like that's fun. And like parents deserve that. There's dopey and, fun and playful versions of that all the time, every day, for sure. And then there are more really serious sides of the fence. And like we have the most robust transparency program available in the US when it comes to our food. There is no other brand that is offering the level of testing detail, limits, standards, commitment to vetting the ingredients and the food and the final product that we put on your child's plate. Like we take that incredibly seriously. And that is just extremely hard, diligent work. That is a big part of who we are as a brand as well. So it's a really wide flex. But if you know thyself, you really can't go wrong,
Yeah. Well, and saying no to things is so hard to do,
Yeah.
right? Not only on the brand side, but as you're saying, like on the ingredient side, to like to inhabit the level of transparency that you guys have committed to and are living in the
Yeah.
world requires saying no to so very, very much in terms of suppliers and supply chain management and production methodologies, literally how it all gets made. It's really inspirational. I think you all doing that sets a standard and almost makes it feel safer for the rest of us to like say no to those sorts of things. It's
Yeah.
scary to
Yeah.
say no, you know?
Totally. And I think like one thing that actually Angela said incredibly recently, it's like, if we can do this, it is a signal to the rest of the industry and the like food space at large, like we can do this and we can offer this. We have an advisor who worked with us on our heavy metals program, and he really is an incredible person, but he really inspired us with like, genuinely, like you have to be the change. Like you cannot wait for the government to, kind of set and enforce a regulatory system. You cannot wait for others to like model the behavior for you to follow suit. Like it is about drawing the line in the sand and deciding to be the change. And we, as a digitally native brand, like Little Spoon was literally only D2C until last September when we launched nationally in Target. That is just the most intimate connection to the consumer that you can possibly get. And like, I will never forget the first time that there was a big heavy metal scare in the baby food space when I was working at Little Spoon. It was in 2021. And I think there was like 8 of us working at Little Spoon at the time. And we had so many parents. Essentially, like the short for those who don't know is that there is no regulation in the US, no enforceable regulation in the US on heavy metals in baby food. Heavy metals are found in everything, but too much is too much and can be toxic. And when it's a little tiny baby body that is developing, there's really a limit that the EU has a really enforced law around. There's a limit that is deemed safe for consumption. That doesn't exist as an enforceable law in the US. And so manufacturers were setting their own standards, but if they went above their standards, like no one's there to tell them they can't sell that product. And so what happened was they were selling that product, and they may still be selling that product because, again, there's no like regulating enforcer of heavy metals in baby food. And so there was this whistleblower report that came out in 2021. It ended up in a congressional hearing, and this report came out. It was explosive, headlines everywhere about it. And that day was just like therapy for families. There were so many parents calling in terrified that they had inadvertently poisoned their children and terrified about the ramifications of that. And that was a day for all of us who were sitting there. One, like, facts over fear, and fear mongering is cruel in this category, and fear mongering is cruel, but this is just, you're caring for a life, you're holding a life. And the idea that you might have tried to make all the right choices and exposed your child was a devastating possibility to parents. And it really, I think, just emboldened us. I'll never forget that day. We need to show up in the right ways. We need to honor these parents in the way that they deserve and show up with an open mindset to learn from them and hear from them. And so we've known for years that the trust erosion has been so high in the category. And why should they trust us? Why should they trust any manufacturer? They've been burned, and it's a pretty high stakes betrayal, right? So we really subscribe to the belief we need to earn your trust and keep re-earning your trust. And we are perfectly happy for that to be the bar because it's your child. So it's a big part of our identity and a big part of why Little Spoon has, I think, developed such a powerful reputation. It's the other side of sort of the cultural storytelling that really exists for the brand is how are we disrupting this category and this industry, and how are we trying to change that part of the world for parents at the same time that we are also trying to change this more human side where we're showing up in the most current and fresh way for this generation.
I mean, I think that's what, it's such a great balance. You have the receipts.
Yeah.
And then, so you're allowed to have fun, right?
Right.
But if you don't have the receipts, it's, as you say, kind of a betrayal to be having fun and to be selling liquid fun.
Yeah, totally.
You've also built on that even further with the community that you've built. Let's talk about that for a second, and just how you've used community as a growth lever. No, community's the rage now, but I think when you were starting with it, it's hard. It's hard for marketing attribution companies to make money on something that's hard to attribute to. So there's this weird ecosystem of I think people have caught on.
Totally agree. It's another one that they're oh, wait a minute, this might be something. I know. Yeah. I mean, I think it all boils down to this very cool club that you enter when you become a parent. And I remember being in a meeting.
Is it that? Wait.
Well, it's I think that I've heard it described from we interviewed a parent a couple of months ago for this series that we're doing, and she was as dumb as it is, it's I didn't need to be in varsity soccer. I ended up deciding to play soccer, and I ended up getting on the varsity team, and I loved being on that team. But if you weren't on that team, it's okay. You don't need to experience it. But once you're on it, you're oh, damn, this is a cool thing, And I think probably a decade ago, I was sitting in some, platform meeting, maybe it was Reddit, at the time, or Meetup. I think it was Meetup. And the two hottest topics on Meetup were parenting and dating. Those were like the two big things that people wanted to commiserate on. And, again, digitally native brand, like we have everybody all together. Like, let's take advantage of that and let's create the space to commiserate and connect and also like enrich where we can, because that is a huge unlock and a huge opportunity for us on the affinity and retention side as well. So we developed a platform called Is This Normal, rooted in the insight that like that is the number one question when you are a parent. And we told editorial stories there. We brought in a bunch of experts and a council. We started a Facebook group that grew to like 16,000 members really quickly, and that translated into community events, much more grassroots in nature. We had a mindset of showing up in daycares across the country, like tier 2, 3, 4 cities, not for revenue, for brand presence. Just being there, being a part of your day-to-day was a big priority for us. And that was really the reason why, was just like, we're part of your community, like we're embedded in your life in that way. We have recently imagined how we're showing up for community. So we have a new education platform called Spoonfed that's actually like woven into the littlespoon.com experience. And it is also really built for the attention span that all of us have today, which is like, we need the TLDR. We need like the glossary of like quick facts. We need video content. We need to be able to like play that at 2x if we want to. And that's what's going to really help us right now. And so we have embraced that TLDR with the name Spoonfed and with the mindset around the way that we're showing up on that platform, and are excited this summer to do some fun like World Cup related community events and just like keep on embedding ourselves in the community. Our daycare kind of program ended up turning into a whole arm of the business in a way. And it makes sense, So all of that community first mindset has really translated into measurable results and business impact. And so exciting to see that and to keep doubling down.
That's amazing. All right, last question. What are you most excited about in this upcoming year? And I should qualify that by saying we're at time. Do you have to?
Of course,
you have
yeah.
10 minutes to answer this
No worries.
question.
I know this has been a good gab, very good gab. What am I most excited about this year? Oh boy, I think that we are in a new phase in performance marketing that is very exciting to me. I think that we, for better or for worse, are losing our ability to target through audience segmentation in performance marketing. And that puts much more onus on really knowing your consumer and who you are trying to target. And it puts a lot more power in the creative than even what we've been hearing over the last couple of years. The opportunity to identify that a big subset of our customers are really health and wellness focused, frequent fitness studio users and active, members of local gyms and local fitness centers. That's like an insight that we can turn into persona-based creative in a really meaningful way, and trust that that creative will reach the right audience to really drive the right understanding of the brand and how we show up for them. So I am very excited about what that looks like in terms of just the precision available from a storytelling standpoint. And I love that for post-checkout retention tactics as well, like the opportunity to really continue to refine our personalization to show up for you the way you really need us to is very exciting to me. So that's like a whole area that I'm pumped up about. And I obviously am like in galaxy mind mode right now on AI and how we can really leverage AI as an enterprise tool for efficiency and workflows and knowledge, trust, and really enabling ourselves to focus more on the critical thoughts and more on the strategy. And I am a big believer that It all starts with the person and the caliber of the talent. And very excited to kind of navigate how to continue to like drive the culture that I drive within the team, while also really enriching the team with tools that are going to like help them do their job better. So have been working on some fun new tools that the team is now using. One of them is like a whole brand world tool that helps them write briefs, helps them workshop creative ideas, helps them build scripts and hooks and captions and emails, and is, a tool that is enriched with consumer data, our performance, our consumer mindset data, none of our private data, obviously. I can restate that. It's a tool that sounds incorrect. It's a tool that's enriched with all of our like consumer mindset goals. It's enriched with, what's working hard for us and what's not. And it's enriched with our brand book and our tone of voice and our core value system. And so it's a really helpful unlock for the team. And it also is helping us drive more consistency in the brand messaging in a really exciting way. So it's like one example of something that excites me for the whole team and our ability to really build integrated workflows and an output together. So, excuse me. Yeah, we'll see. I'm interested in it and intimidated by it and feel intensely behind on it like everybody else. But like we were saying earlier, that's like a human tendency. And the truth is like we're all right where we should be. And we're all going to figure out what it means and how to use it in the most meaningful ways.
I think one of the things that I anchor to as kind of a moment of calm in all of that is like, we've been here before. Social media became a thing, right? And then like, oh my gosh, we got a race to do it. I'm like, can't
Totally.
miss the moment. The moment is just like a really long.
I
So
know.
it's
I know.
okay. Like the
Right.
answer is just to start because it will be
Yes,
here.
totally.
It will
And
be
like
here.
I'm a big history nerd and like it's an industry boom, right? And so like what have we seen in every industry boom? Like there's this idea that it becomes infrastructure over time, same way that internet became infrastructure over time. So I'm trying to skip to the infrastructure mindset and not get distracted by like sort of the immediate newness and instead really work on like how can I weave AI into the infrastructure and allow us to keep kind of shoring up our strength with this tool under our belts. So, we'll all navigate it together. And it's a
We'll
really
figure it out together.
remarkable what
Is this
something like,
normal?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know.
I feel like, so interesting. Like there was a segment of time where we all were kind of like trying to use the best tools together, right? Like we've got our internal SOPs, but like there's some, I don't know, generationally defining great tools to use. Shopify is a great example, right? Like everybody just realizes, okay,
Yeah.
like let's take this part of the work and make it easier. and we'll grow faster as a result. And that turned into like a huge consumer products boom. And think what's so fascinating about this moment is that for many brands being ahead of the curve on building agents and using AI tooling to make their work, faster and more reliable and more on brand and all of these things, like that'll be a competitive advantage for those who have chosen to stay on the front,
Yeah, for sure.
adoption curve. And I wonder how many brands are going to turn into software companies by like some point sharing what they have built for themselves. And I'm living this in a really weird and meta way myself because
Yeah.
I as a brand built tools for myself and then like 5 years ago I was like I am going to share my tools but I'm not a brand anymore so it's not like I'm not really giving away my secret sauce in the same way. It doesn't feel scary. It feels joyful. And
Yeah.
that's the moment where I turned
Yeah.
something that was a competitive internal advantage for us into something that I was like more able to share freely. And I bet that there's going to be a
Yeah.
lot of brands that like share their tools in a really
I think
cool way.
you're dead on. Totally. You're so dead on. And I feel like it's forums like these where like we could really get into it and really talk about it because, like we are the interested parties and like it goes back to those Slack groups that I honestly find to be so cathartic and so valuable. Like, yeah, let's help one another understand and unpack. And it's such a good point. I see it too, for sure. It's coming. Yeah.
It's a good time. It's a good time to be in consumer, I think.
Agreed.
Okay, we have a lag. That's a sign from the universe.
I know, it's
A
strange.
video
I guess
lag.
it's our sign. Yeah.
It's our sign. Thank you for spending extra time
I can
with
turn my
me.
camera off to see.
Maybe it'll catch us up.
Yeah.
Where can people find
I know, I
you?
turned my camera off to help us.
And where can people find you and how can we be helpful to you? And again, thank you so much for being so generous with your knowledge to help other founders in the space.
Of course. Yeah. No, my pleasure. And people can find me on LinkedIn, just my little old name, and you'll be able to hit me up there. So look forward to it.
All right. Caryn, thank you again for coming. Such a fun combo.
So nice to chat with you and meet you.
You too. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.
You too. Bye. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Commerce is Chaos. If you're listening, I have a feeling you know just how much good leaving a 5-star review can do for a team. Drop us a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to Commerce is Chaos wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to our Substack, also called Commerce is Chaos, for more good stuff and actionable tools to build your business.